Marty Raney was making plans for a life that most people would never even think of before Homestead Rescue came out. Getting wood on floating camps, living with bears, and raising a family in Alaska's harsh wildness. But the rough confidence you see on the screen isn't really there. The story behind it is a lot darker, more dramatic, and more difficult to understand than the show ever makes it seem. And in the past few years, a mix of shocking scandals and personal losses has made a lot of people wonder, what happened to Marty Raney? If you go back to July 28, 1956, in North Bend, Washington, where Marty Raney was born, you can see the beginning of his story. He never liked city life, even when he was a kid. Their house from childhood was at the end of Mount Si Road, and the next-door neighbor lived a mile away. And that was great for Marty. He spent his days climbing, scrambling, and exploring because he grew up at the base of Mount Tenerife. He had no technical training, just a lot of energy and interest. He was hiking 35 miles through the Cascades like it was nothing by the time he was 12 or 13. That deep love for nature only grew stronger. So strong that when he was 16, he quit school and became a logger, but he still wanted more the wild. When he was 18, he made the choice that would change the rest of his life. He went to Alaska. From the front seat of a 737, he got his first look at Alaska, which he will never forget. As they took off, a flight worker friend pulled him to the front, giving him a great view of the rough land he would one day call home. When Marty looked down from above, he felt like he was in the right place. His first home in Alaska wasn't even on land when he got there. It was an off-grid floating mining camp close to Prince of Wales Island. It was literally floating on the water. Back then, logging was hard but beautiful work, and Marty came along just in time to see the end of that way of life. The trees were really big. They would cut them into 40-foot pieces, tie them together to make huge boats, and then build whole homes on top of them. Everything was on these floating platforms that were towed from one remote bay to the next. They held houses, fourplexes, trailers, and more. Once Marty married his girlfriend Molly Roestel, they couldn't help but feel a strong urge to go even further into the woods, away from towns, traffic, and most of the things that people take for granted. In the end, they built their first house near Chilkoot Lake, which is about 30 miles north of Haines. They didn't just pick that spot because it had picture postcard views, it was also very beautiful. There were a lot of mating salmon in the nearby streams, so there was plenty of food. But, of course, bears like salmon. And a lot of them. Marty later said that those early days were completely crazy, with huge brown bears walking around like they owned the area and fighting over the same shimmering coho salmon in the watershed. Marty and Molly worked hard together for years while living in the wild. They moved from one remote area of Alaska to another before landing outside of Haines, which was still bear country. Their relationship turned out to be as rough and wild as the land they lived on. Soon, they had 4 children, but those first few years weren't easy. Marty did everything he could to make sure Molly and their new daughter Melanie had food to eat. Then there was a scary moment. Molly went into labor on the farm, and because of a dangerous problem, they had to take an emergency bush plane to Whitehorse in the Yukon government. That is where Melanie was brought home safely. Marty would be completely honest about those days in the future, calling them real hard scrabble times. He was tired, hungry, and getting thinner every week after working long, hard hours as a forester. He sometimes hoped he could catch a single salmon along the edge of Chilkoot Lake to feed himself and Molly for the night. He often said that those hard times had changed him in ways that nothing else could. Misty Raney's was the Raneys' 3rd child. That same year, they packed up and moved to the Wasilla area. This new place, close to Denali National Park, opened a door that Marty had been slowly moving toward for years. This is where he started going on mountain trips. He climbed Denali for the first time in 1986, and it was an experience he will never forget. As he pushed himself up the last 20 feet to the top, he could feel tears running down his face. The cold made the tears freeze right away. He felt amazed when he was at the very top of North America. There was no desire to cheer or plant a flag. Instead, he felt small, humbled, and overshadowed by 360 degrees of towering ridges and jagged, icy wilderness stretching forever in every direction. That wild, beautiful view was the same one he had fallen in love with from the pilot of a 737 years before. He felt right at home in the wild world, which was untamed and cruel. By 1998, he was officially leading trips. And when Alaska's harsh winters ended the climbing season, Marty just switched things up. He started the Alaskan company Stone and Log and focused on using simple materials like stone, wood, and grit to build and fix up homesteads. Being brave and patient were needed to live off the grid, but the Raneys loved it. In spite of not having plumbing, heating systems, running water, energy, or electricity, they learned to live with the land's rhythm. Over time, the harsh climate didn't just test them, it made them stronger. In the 1990s, Marty was a natural choice for documentary teams because he knew a lot about Alaska and had a musical background. He was a climber, a singer, and a second cameraman for the movie Climb Against the Odds, which came out 2 years after Alaska, Spirit of the Wild. He helped lead the film crew. His big break didn't come until 2013, though, when he was on Ultimate Survival Alaska. From 2013 to 2016, the show aired on the National Geographic Channel. It put top survivalists in the middle of Alaska's wild tundra and pretty much told them good luck. Teams had to deal with rough terrain, harsh weather, and tasks that looked like they were made by Mother Nature on a bad day. Marty stood out as soon as he came on the scene. It was really easy to understand why. He wasn't just pretending to be a tough boy from the woods. He was one. He moved through that forest like he knew it well after living off the land for more than 40 years. People watched him hunt, fish, trap, and build shelters out of natural materials as if he were just cleaning up his own garden. He was tough, smart, and calm under pressure, which made him a rival to fear and a fan favorite to watch. A real, edge-of-your-seat look at Alaska's risks got the show a lot of attention. There were cliff climbs that made your hands sweat, hikes through dangerous terrain, and blizzards that seemed like they were meant to be mean. The craziest thing about it, though, was that there was no cash prize, award, or big check. To show respect and that you could handle the Alaskan wilderness, you had to do it. Still, Marty's fame really took off after the end of Ultimate Survival Alaska. In 2016, the next part of his story began when he became the heart of Homestead Rescue. He didn't come up with the idea. The Discovery Channel came to Marty with an idea that they called a return to their early, real, boots-on-the-ground style. The goal was what caught Marty's attention. Real people with real issues and real answers. Don't make up trouble. Just trying to help homesteaders stay alive. Later, Marty said that Discovery had done a great job of finding participants who were not the usual end-of-the-world types that TV shows tend to show. Instead, they were regular people who lived off the grid for their own reasons. He praised the network for looking for real families who are trying to live a life that isn't possible in today's world. After giving it some thought for a month, his kids, Misty and Matt, joined the effort, making the series a full family business. But Marty had one big requirement: it had to be real. He wasn't interested in plots or built-up fights. But he wanted real feelings. There are real risks and real interactions. And so did the producers. Marty meets each homesteader for the first time when he gets there, so every scene is full of real stress, vulnerability, and need. Before watching Ultimate Survival Alaska, Marty thinks Homestead Rescue is a more real show. It's easy to see why after seeing what the Raneys do. People who are trying to live off the land but fail in risky ways are shown in each episode. Not having enough food or clean water, animals that could hurt you, buildings that are falling apart, or weather that doesn't let you make mistakes. The Raneys aren't big-name artists who just fly in. When they get there, they are ready to fix problems. After figuring out what's broken and what the family needs most, they make a plan to fix the farm so that it is safe, long-lasting, and useful. Each family member brings something unique. Marty is the king of the wild. He hunts, tracks, traps, builds shelters, and reads the land like it's a book. Misty is an expert on sustainability, and she uses farming and animals to make food systems stronger. Matt is the craftsman. He can take raw materials and turn them into strong, useful buildings. Together, they save lives, coming in when people are about to die and helping dreamers who are having a hard time turn survival into a real way of life. Throughout the show, the Raney family faces problems that most people would find impossible to solve. Bad weather, unpredictable animals, and sudden setbacks that could erase months of progress in an instant are all things that come to mind. Then again, they never give up, episode after episode. Their goal hasn't changed. Help homesteaders get back their land, start over with their lives, and remember why they started this journey in the first place. And you can see the change by the end of each story. Thanks to the Raneys' knowledge, creativity, and hard work, families leave with homesteads that are more sustainable, more efficient, and much better places to live. Marty and his family are known for being creative when it comes to building things. They do everything they can to reuse whatever they come across on the site, reusing scraps, old materials, or buildings that have been forgotten to make smart, useful solutions. When a problem is too big or dangerous for the team to fix with the tools they have on hand, they ask for help from the network. If a big update is needed, Discovery gives the money to make it happen. People like Homestead Rescue because it focuses on self-sufficiency and long-term living, which is timely since a lot of watchers want to move closer to the land. But, like most reality shows, it's been criticized. Some viewers say that some scenes are too dramatic or were staged for TV, which leads to discussion about how real the rescue process really is. In 2018, Marty Raney became famous for a completely different reason after a dramatic event involving a drone operator. Marty approached drone pilot Justin Pursley while he was flying his brand new drone in the Hatcher Pass area. He thought Marty was being filmed without permission. Things got worse very quickly. Because Marty broke Pursley's drone, she had to get a court order against him. Raney said the drone had been flying very low over his property and following him around as he moved. He said that a call he made to a trooper dispatcher made him think the flight was illegal. The fight ended much more quietly than it started, which was a surprise. That morning, the two men decided to talk things over in the parking lot of a grocery store. Pursley said that Marty said sorry and gave him cash for the full price of the drone during this meeting. Then Pursley told the judge to drop the request for a restraining order. Both guys posted their stories on social media, which got a lot of attention and made people have different thoughts online. Marty said that he was sharpening his chainsaw when he heard a buzzing sound and looked up to see a drone flying directly above him and his cabin. Afterward, he said the drone followed him back to his car for almost 1,000 feet. On the other side, Pursley said that he and his father-in-law were just using a public pull-off to test out the new drone when Marty came up to them. He remembered being shocked when Raney's famous cowboy had showed up and the TV star asked them why they were flying over his land. The father-in-law of Pursley said the drone had been flying high enough not to cross private land. When the troopers showed up, the stories changed again. Marty said the trooper wasn't sure and said he didn't know the specifics of drone law in that area, but Pursley said officers told him the flight was allowed. Afterwards, Megan Peters, a trooper spokeswoman, said the details were still not clear until the assigned officer could be reached. A short time later, Raney wrote on his social media page that he had been driving across Alaska for hours and thinking about what had happened. He offered to fix Pursley's drone and said he was sorry for the harm. Pursley says that they met again. Marty said sorry, and he paid the full price of the drone. Raney even offered to pay him to use a drone to record footage for a future project, but Pursley turned him down. Then, in 2020, Marty had to deal with more public anger. This time, it was because of a song from his past that came up again. A song from his 1997 record Adam and Steve started going around the internet, and it got a lot of negative feedback for having homophobic lyrics. The record was mostly made up of pleasant country songs, but the last song stood out because it made a statement against how homosexuality is becoming more accepted. The songs talked about old ideas, were critical of gay pride, and compared them to what Raney called traditional relationships. The issue came up again when people were talking about the work culture on some Discovery shows as a whole. After news stories about the disappearance of Terrence Woods, a production helper. Some former crew members said the setting wasn't friendly and didn't allow for new ideas. In that bigger conversation, Raney's song from decades ago got new attention. Discovery projects are worked on by the production company Raw, which said they had never heard of the song and were shocked by what it said. They made it clear that they didn't agree with what it said. All three of Media America, which had just started co-producing Homestead Rescue, said the same thing. They didn't agree with any of the points made in the track. Discovery also said in a separate statement that the network had nothing to do with the song and that it didn't represent their morals or the spirit of the show. It was never made clear by the network whether they were going to punish Raney or just do an internal study. But Homestead Rescue kept showing, even though there was a lot of noise and controversy about it. There are no breaks or delays. Discovery didn't change anything about its schedule, so it stayed there. Then something terrible happened that no one could have seen coming. In 2021, things changed dramatically on the Raney Ranch when Marty and Molly's house caught fire quickly and badly. The family was very sad about the loss. They worked on the building for years and through many seasons, but everything they counted on was gone in an instant. At first, people thought that the fireplace pipe might have been the cause. Because of how it was built, it could get very hot, which may have been what started the accident. The Raneys couldn't have picked a worse time. Winter was coming on quickly, and all of a sudden, the family had to start over. As they race against freezing weather. There was a lot at stake and a lot of pressure. Discovery used the fire a lot to promote the new season, which made some viewers wonder if the story was being blown up to make it more dramatic. But it was clear how bad things were when Marty shared a video of himself calling for help as the cabin caught on fire. Even though everyone worked very hard, the fire consumed the building in minutes, not leaving anything behind. Fans were getting more and more impatient as promotional materials gave away bits of the story. A lot of people wanted clear answers, not little hints spread out over several shows. This slow rollout made people think that the disaster might not be the main point of the story but rather a plot device. Discovery, on the other hand, insisted that the fire was real and cast it as the Raney family's biggest problem to date. They gave a sense of urgency when they talked about the new season. As the family tries to rebuild, winter is always a threat, and a terrible loss makes them work harder than ever. Still, the lack of long-form footage kept the argument going. Some longtime fans still had doubts because of this and claims that parts of the show were staged in the past. People who had been on the show before had already talked about what happened behind the scenes, and those stories hurt the show's image. Kim and Josh Zabek, who were in the second show of the first season, caused a lot of trouble right away. When the Raneys came to visit, the couple already had a successful business called Revolutionary Roots Farms. Still, the show made them seem like they were struggling farmers whose pigs had caused a huge problem. Later, the Zabeks went to court and said the show had skewed their reality. They said that the dramatic scenes people saw were fake and included dead animals that weren't theirs and made up stories to make things more tense. They said they never expected the production team to take creative freedom so far. The result of their lawsuit was never made public, but both Kim and Josh were shocked by how their homestead was portrayed. Marty answered with a tone that was surprisingly sensitive. He remembered how much he liked working with Kim and said he didn't want to criticize the couple because she hadn't said anything bad about him. Other people had more varied but mostly good experiences. The actors Rin and Ian, who were in Season 2, told the Ozark County Times that they were thrilled to be a part of the show. They did say that producers changed their story for TV, emphasizing mistakes and leaving out the fact that their cabin was built by a professional company. However, they were quick to praise the Raney family. They said Marty was a man who worked very hard and kept building even when the cameras stopped. The Raines family from Kentucky also shared their thoughts. They said that the producers asked them to make a list of the projects they wanted to work on, which helped them come up with the story for their show. They remembered how good Marty was with a chainsaw and were amazed at how fast he made a bear out of wood for the movie. Even though they admitted that some scenes were repeated for TV purposes, they stressed how kind the Raneys were throughout the whole process. Then there was the Kondash family from Oregon, who had no issues at all. They were in a lot of financial trouble because their wood mill business had failed, so they accepted the Homestead rescue team with open arms. The Raneys helped them get their business back on track. They needed to secure their farm and get their business back up and running. Their mill is doing very well now, and they say the show helped them get things back on track. Together, these stories paint a complicated but interesting picture of a show that mixes real hardship with TV drama, a family dealing with both natural disasters and public scrutiny, and a group of homesteaders whose lives were changed, sometimes in bad ways and sometimes in good ones. With the help of the Raneys.